So I mentioned earlier about the Congress, the power of committees, the power of subcommittees to pass your legislation, Lawmaking 101. This is something that is on your Global Lyceum. All the readings have quizzes connected to each reading. So that's what, in the next week and a half, 2 weeks, I expect you to begin going through step by step. Committees are the workhorses of the legislature. That's where you should, I'm going to be looking to grade your Lawmaking 101, both our classes, both online and here in the daily class. I'll be looking for your Lawmaking 101 I'm very curious about Pallone, for example, or any other of the chairmen of the committees that have bills actually signed by Don the Maniac, Donald Trump. There are 12 bills on that website, the U.S. government track, whatever it is. And open it up, take a look at 12, and choose. Of course, if you're that adventurous, you can go elsewhere. But you will now know how many bills, 400,000 bills are options for you, if you really want. Enjoy, if you don't have a life. So, committees are the workhorses. And Stephen mentioned in the actual, the pages of your study, they are churning out legislation. In the House, there are 20 of these committees. The Senate, there are 16. The Senate is more egalitarian, and the House is much more specialized. Generally, the House people know a lot more about specificity of a bill because they actually help write the darn thing. In the Senate, they're more general knowledge based, more generalists. So that should be here. Each chamber is divided into several committees that handle specific policy areas, from education through defense to agriculture. The purpose is to review and to refine legislation, present legislation. Bills are assigned to committees based upon consideration of the issue or issues they address. In 1946, right after FDR died, there was a 1946 legislative act that proclaimed a bill's purpose. There should be one main committee per bill. And who has the power to assign that bill to the committee that is the most important? The Speaker of the House. That's the Speaker. Thank you. Or the Senate Majority Leader. So McConnell is not irrelevant. Turtle, I pick on him because he tends to be shy and quiet, but powerful man. He's not a blabbermouth. His power is by stealth. So McConnell and Pelosi, they basically assign legislation bills to their appropriate committees. Committees are divided into subcommittees. We call subcommittees in poli-sci the graveyards of legislation. Graveyards, cemeteries, what does that mean? Graveyard. Most bills die. Write that down. You'll need it in case they ask about subcommittees. So it goes floor, committee, subcommittee, back out to committee, and to the floor. It goes large, small, back out to the hips. Shoulders, waistline, hips, back out. So it's like an hourglass. Okay, so floor, committee, subcommittee, committee, floor. And it goes from ignorance of the floor down to knowledge in the smallest subcommittees and back out to the floor, which is no one reads the bills. Your Congress people don't have the time to read 400,000 bills. Do you really think? Do you read all of my pages of my Global Lyceum? Don't answer that. I don't want to know. Yes, I do. Whatever. Yeah. Committees are divided into subcommittees, which are organized around very specific policy, broader policy areas, very specific aspects of the broader whole, the broader committee. The House Judiciary Committee has committees, subcommittees on court, Constitution, Immigration, Crime, Homeland Security. Members of each subcommittee deal with bills in their specific area first, then pass them to the full committee for final consideration. And a bill can die, your notes, can a bill die on the floor?
Yes.
Can a bill die in committee?
Yes.
Can a bill die in subcommittee?
Yes.
It's a goddamn nightmare. Can a bill die again in committee once it gets
Yes.
back out? Can Bill Clinton or Nixon or Reagan or Trump veto a bill once it's out of both houses?
Yep.
It's a nightmare. The bill has to navigate through all these crevices. Most members have only 2 or 3 committee assignments. It depends what committee you're on. If you're on Ways and Means Committee, you serve on that one committee alone. It's a massive committee with massive responsibilities. So Pallone is a pretty good example. He's chairman of that big, powerful Energy Committee. Take a look. Very prominent committee. Armed services are here, mentioned here as part of our study. House select committees are, there are House select, this is a typo. Your notes, these are standing committees. I'm going to kill them. Scratch this and put House standing committees. Okay, so Veterans Affairs, Ways and Means, Natural Resources, Education, Science, Transportation, Financial Services. My friends hate her. Maxine Waters is in charge of the...
There are nearly 24 standing and select committees in the House, and about the same in the Senate. Congress also has standing joint committees. Some of these committee assignments are more important and critical than others. It is widely acknowledged that the chair of the House Committee on Ways and Means is one of the most powerful members of Congress because this committee decides where government funds will be spent. Similarly, the Armed Services Committee of both chambers are very important committee assignments because of the size of the U.S. military. Moreover, the Senate Judiciary Committee becomes very critical every time the Senate has to approve a Supreme Court nominee. The nomination can be short-circuited if it does not make it out of this committee. Some committees require members to participate closely with the executive branch and deal with highly sensitive and classified information, such as the Senate Intelligence Committee. Often these critical and powerful committees are filled with the more senior members of Congress. Junior members usually have to serve on lesser committees and wait their turns before they can join the more important committees.
So seniority does matter, yes or no?
Yes.
And AOC, what kind of seniority does she have?
Freshman.
None. So she has to sit there in a committee process for 3 hours before she gets to what? Speak.
So she's scratching that.
She's trying to change that, but seniority is fundamental, and Pelosi is an old school kind of girl. So let's keep going. I wanted to make sure that you heard all.
Occasionally, however, the majority and minority leaders in Congress who control these assignments will select a more junior member for a more significant committee if they believe it will help elect that member from a key state or congressional district.
Occasionally. So that word should read standing committees. Select committees are temporary. They're short-lived. They're not always around meeting. These committees meet all year long. So can you please make sure you don't get confused? Oh my God, I'm going to kill them. It's not a select committee. It's a standing committee. Oops. Because, the people who put this together are not poli-sci. Some of them don't really know. So now you do. Here's an example, a sample of legislative committee assignments. General Issa, Committee on Judiciary, Committee on Foreign Affairs. Neugebauer, Agriculture, from Texas, of course. Financial Services, Science, Space, Technology. Tim Waltz, Agriculture, Minnesota has farmers. Armed Services, Veterans Affairs. Linda Sanchez, the sister of Loretta Sanchez, Ethics and Ways and Means. She is the ranking member, which means what now?
She's the chair.
She's the chair. And you can check that. They might have knocked her off, but we'll have to see. Usually she becomes the chair. Ranking member. ranking members are the most senior members of the minority party on a committee or a subcommittee. So they're ranking members who are Republican today and the Democrats in the Senate today. So the ranking members are on committee assignments. There are 45 Democrats. Those 45 Dems, some of them are on committee assignments, and the more senior members have status like, let's see, well, Senate. So I'm looking at, who's the Senate majority? Who's the Senate minority leader? Charles Schumer. So Schumer would assign, he and is the whip, the Senate minority whip, they would assign members to, based on the steering committee of the Senate, to their committee assignments. You should ask questions, how do they get assigned their positions? And those are, Democrats typically have a committee called the steering committee. There's a policy committee, there's a steering committee. The policy committee controls what agenda items that Democrats are following. The steering committee controls your committee assignments. Republicans call this committee the Committee on Committees. Really creative.